Good evening and welcome to Valenti Voices Election Day coverage here at the Jack J. Valenti School of Communication at the University of Houston campus. I'm Marissa Cummings.
And I'm Alexander Bove. Tonight we are giving you a thorough perspective of the 2016 presidential election through the voices of the UH College students.
To do this, we need your help too. Tweet us your thoughts on the progress of the election and take part in our online polls. You can do this by using the UH Twitter page, using the hashtag Valenti Voices, so we can see your comments and questions throughout the night.
This is a live look at the Student Center campus where a watch party is happening right now. We'll get to them later on in our coverage, along with the student reporters who are covering the results in the election. But first, let's get to the latest in the polls.
The polls just closed at 7 o'clock, and as the remaining votes are being counted, we're starting to see the election take shape tonight. Let's get straight to the polling center at the Valenti School, where we are tracking not only the poll numbers, but we have a team of students looking into what election topics are on your mind.
Joining us is Aisa Fuentes. Aisa, what is the latest in the polls tonight?
This polling with the students, so can you explain a little bit about the process and how it works?
Yes, of course. Tonight we are trying to really get a bit of a sense of our students' experiences with the polling in this election. So we are using Twitter poll to send a couple of questions in terms of getting giving a voice to our students, also to voice their opinions about their experiences. So some of the questions that have gone are already out. Try to get a sense of the election process, how easy it is, if there were lines, how long people waited in the lines. To what degree this has been like a pleasant kind of experience, but also we are interested to see our students' opinion about their optimism or feel like kind of their attitude toward the elections. So I encourage all our students, but also all the university students, to go on the Valenti Voices, the hashtag Valenti Voices or Valenti poll, and respond to our polls. We'll talk about those data later on and report a bit on what we found out in terms of our students.
So the polling is still going on, correct?
Yes, it is ongoing. Please go, give us your voice, give us your experience, and then we'll report some more data later on.
So you haven't seen any trends going on right now? Or?
One of the trends that I wanted to one of the questions that went on, we are interested to see to what degree our students were engaged in the early voting process versus voting today. And I think the majority of the votes that have come so far were casted by our students, of course, were casted during the early voting process.
Yes.
So that was very interesting and encouraging to see that actually our students were very, very engaged in that process, as I guess the rest of the nation, but also the state of Texas.
Well, that's thank you, Dr. Kamaj, for being with us here. So make sure, guys, to hashtag Valenti poll and hashtag MyVote2016. Right now we're going to go over to Jade, who has some students giving her some insights. Jade?
Go, Jade. Thank you, Aisa. I am Jade Ming, and I am here at the Computer Technology Center right now at the Valenti School Communications, and we are right now with multiple students. They're right now checking out on Twitter the different hashtags trending and what's going on right now. And there are going to be different polls, and if you want to say anything, if you want to tweet, we'll read out for you on the Valenti Voices. Just make sure you do a hashtag. If you want to check out the polls, make sure you go to hashtag Valenti poll or MyVote2016. Make sure you put those hashtags in order for us to read your tweets. But right now, we're just going to go ahead and check out some students and find out what's been going on lately. Hi, Rabal. What's been going on lately? What's going on right now? What are the polls looking at?
Hi, based on my results I'm getting from CNN, it shows that, and those results are not accurate, it's CNN projections. So it shows that we have 1, 2, 3, around 8 states for Hillary, and around 8 states for Trump. So basically, it's quite even.
And how do you feel about the election so far? A lot of people have been saying lots of things right now lately. So what do you believe in what's going on?
I mean, I'm just gonna say one thing: only if President Obama can stay for 4 more years. That's all I can say.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Raval. I am Jade Ming, and thank you for watching. Make sure you do hashtag Valenti Voices and hashtag Valenti Poll or hashtag My Vote 2016. And thank you for watching. And going back to Marissa.
Thank you, Jade. This week we had the opportunity to talk to UH political science professor Brandon Rottinghouse about the demographics in voting in Texas.
Take a look. He had some
In your
eye-opening
opinion, this election, what has been the most important aspects for Democratic voters to change their minds, especially in those key Republican demographics, the older, the more business-oriented people?
Yeah, I think that for the Democrats, that their best opportunity is to pick up younger voters and make sure they're turning out to pick up African-American voters and also Latino voters who they need to not only expand the electorate, but also to get them to turn out in the numbers that the Democrats would like. So that's a big thing there for them. The other is to try to peel off some support for college-educated voters and suburban women who also often are college-educated. So if you can get those cohorts to be able to come to the Democratic Party, then the party's going to have a better chance to be able to compete in suburban areas, but also to be able to run up numbers in the statewide election. So they've got to be able to get their voters out. That's clear. We saw a huge turnout in 2008 in the primary, and the question is, where did these Democrats go? And if those Democrats do show up in election years and midterm election years, then the Democrats could easily win the state, but they don't come to vote. So if you combine that group with some of the potential pull-off support from the Republicans, then the Democrats could do quite well. It's just a matter of having the right message as well as having the right turnout game to get them to come vote.
So what you're saying is that voter turnout is especially important for Democrats right now and in the future.
Yeah. Turnout is key to this because we've seen a tremendous difference in terms of winning and losing based upon strictly turnout. This is not only true in a primary where lots of decisions are made, but also in the general where if people don't come vote, Democrats don't win. This is true. We've seen it in San Antonio. There have been several special elections where you had an independent win as opposed to a Democrat in an easily winnable Democratic seat. You had conservative Republicans who were doing better in some of those seats than they should. You had conservative Democrats who were winning in San Antonio when they shouldn't. This is true in Harris County too. All these judicial races that are down ballot are all at risk because if you don't have Democrats come vote, then you simply can't have them win. So turnout is absolutely the heart and lungs of the entire operation. If the Democrats can't get people to turn out, they're just not going to win.
We all knew Election Day was coming for a while, but how many students actually got out there and voted?
Darnisha Heron joins us with a look at people's reactions.
Despite the buzz on social media about this year's election, some national polls anticipated a low voter turnout for college students this year. Here at UH, we have debate watch parties, a Coug vote rally, and even an election party as part of our homecoming celebration. I was able to speak with a couple of fellow Cougs about their voting experience. So, did you go out and vote this year?
Yes, I did.
So, Kimberly, did you go out and vote this year?
I did. I just voted today, actually, in between classes.
Rolando, did you go out and vote this year?
No, I did not.
Why not?
I just haven't had time to.
Too busy?
Yeah, with work.
What's most important to you in regards to this election?
In regards to this election, I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a partisan thing. It's more so making sure that my voice is heard. This is the first time that I am able to vote, especially being from undocumented parents. I feel like I have the opportunity to speak on behalf of them and just other people in my family that don't have the opportunity to do so. And it's, as a millennial, I think it's very important to say, hey, I have an opinion too, and I'm going to make sure that that's heard through my vote.
Did you have any issues while trying to vote?
Well, I did have a couple issues. I didn't have my driver license, so I did have to bring some documents in order to vote, but thank God that I was able to do it.
Okay, great. So you were able to vote and everything went well?
Yes, ma'am.
So what influenced you to go out and vote?
What influenced me is that I believe that there should be a change in the country.
It looks like the Cougs are breaking statistics and getting out to vote. Let your voice be heard. And this is Daranisha Heron with Valenti Voices.
When we return after this short break, we're going to look at the reasons why UH students are going to the polls in record numbers this election.
Plus, we go back live to the Student Center on campus to hear from students firsthand about their thoughts on the election. We'll be right back. I'm Alex Bove.
And I'm Marissa Cummings. Remember to tweet us at the Valenti School with the hashtag Valenti Voices. Right now, this is a look at the preliminary numbers from this election between both Clinton and Trump. So we'll keep you informed about these election polls throughout the night.
Now, let's hear it from the students themselves. Reporter Jenna Gonzalez and Professor Leah Hillmuller are over in the Student Center tonight, where there's a live watch party going on.
What's the feeling going on over there?
Good evening. We're here at the Student Center where students are settling into their watch parties. We're here with Professor Helmner, who's going to tell us her thoughts on the election.
Well, first of all, I thought that it was a very negative campaign and campaign coverage, so a lot of negativity, also a lot of disapproval ratings from both sides. I think that led to an even more polarized society, which I believe is really not a good thing. I've also been following closely the minority votes, and I think it could be a historic race. I think that's great for U of H, as a Hispanic serving institution. And yeah, I think that could really make a difference. We see many more Hispanic, African Americans, Asian Americans going out and vote than we've actually have seen in 2012. So I'm looking forward to the results and hope that this will be a historic night.
And we're going to get some thoughts from students. So guys, what are some important issues for y'all during this election?
Immigration, I'd say, one of them. Regardless, as Mexican American, some of the things that have been said during this election have really struck me in a particular way. What am I doing? Something? Sorry. Especially the things that Donald Trump has said, building a wall along our border. That's not going to fix anything, in my opinion.
One of the biggest issues for me is also foreign policies and what they have planned, because I feel like Hillary Clinton is a great compromiser and is able to get the job done. So I'm very excited for that, and I'm excited to see a woman be president of the United States of America.
And have any of y'all had any heated arguments with any of your friends or family members?
Actually have. Earlier today I had one with her. She's a Hillary supporter. I am a neutral. I didn't vote. I don't plan on voting for this year because none of them deserve my vote. And I feel like they're both saying things they said the first time in their platform and changing it completely. I do not agree with that sense.
Anyone else?
I've had some arguments with a few people. More like the debates, whenever the debates was going on, like you said, they were really shooting shots at each other and they were not covering the policy. And I'm just glad that everyone actually voted and came out.
All right. And so does anyone have any thoughts on like the media coverage? Oh, and that's all for while we're here at the Student Center. We'll be catching up later, getting more thoughts on the polling. Thank you.
You, Jenna.
Valenti Voices reporter Davina Works went to discover how UH students were feeling about this controversial election. She joins us now with that report.
As we have approached Election Day, we prepare to say hello to the new head of state. There's been a lot of talk about how this year's election may have the most shocking results and candidates. I got the chance to speak to a few Cougs to see how students of my university felt about this year's 2016 election.
Hello, this is Davina Works, and I'm standing here with Lamisha Liggins. Hello, Lamisha, and I just wanted to ask you a few questions. So have you voted yet?
Yes, I voted yesterday, which was the last day for early voting.
Have you voted yet?
I have voted.
Why haven't you voted yet?
Well, I'm not from Texas. I'm not from Houston whatsoever. So it's kind of hard for me to find places to vote, number one. Number two, I just have a lack of time. I'm in grad school, and I do like an extra job on the side.
And do you believe that it's important to early vote?
I believe it's important to early vote, especially if you know that you're going to be tied up on election day. You should do it as soon as possible.
Have you heard about election stress? And if so, do you believe in it?
Yes, election stress is real. It's from my understanding, it's an elevated level of stress just because of the decision and how important these decisions are.
Do you agree with your candidate's message and movement, or did you just vote for them due to opposition of the other candidate?
I'm honestly not too thrilled about either candidate, but I voted for the person who I think will do the least amount of damage in the next 4 years.
I think this election in general has been completely different for the entire country. I feel like this election, there's a lot of different rhetoric going on. I don't think anyone expected one of the candidates that we do have currently. So I think it's caused a lot more stress and just a different tone and rhetoric to this election than prior.
What message would you say to them for those people who are kind of stuck in between and aren't sure if they want to vote or not?
I would say your voice still needs to be heard. There are millions of people who are going to be affected by a particular candidate, and it's important to get out there and exercise your right to vote.
I'm glad election stress hasn't affected my university and students are taking advantage of voicing their opinions. For Valenti Voices, I'm Davina Works.
We have seen record voting turnout this election, and UH students are no exception. Joining us now is Cynthia Guerrero via Skype from the ABC 13 studios, where they're holding their own election coverage tonight. Hey, Cindy.
I'm Cynthia Guerrero, and I am at Bayland Community Center, where, as you can see, the lines are starting to get very long outside because everybody here at early voting are very excited to do their due diligence as U.S. citizens. And you also have to come out here and do your due diligence because every vote counts. I am here with Dr. Brower, and I want to ask you, why is it so important to you to come vote in this election?
Well, to me, I think it's important not just to vote in this election, but all elections, because it's being part of the civic process. And so, to me, if we're going to have an informed electorate and a democracy in this country, then we have to take participation in that in a very serious light. And so, for me, it's not just this election, but the midterm elections and the local elections. And so, I know that there's a lot of publicity with the national election, and that's good. But to me, it's also important to be getting out for local elections and other elections as well, because those have a profound impact on our daily lives too.
I am here with former city council candidate, Mr. Blackman. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, Cynthia. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, have you done your due diligence? Have you voted yet?
I certainly have. Isn't it an exciting time?
Yes, it is.
We have had long lines here at Balin, and it is just moving and moving. And sometimes the lines are long, sometimes the wait is long. But it is very important, and so people are coming out with enthusiasm out of the gazoo.
Do you want to give a message to those that are still thinking about coming out?
I do. As a former school teacher, I used to teach government and economics, and we made practical applications by getting people out to vote all the time. And when we did that, we had a lot of people that registered to vote that made a difference. And so they're at that age now, and so now they're seeing, they have families and everything now, and they're seeing the importance, and I see them coming in the polls right now. So it is making a difference.
I'm Cynthia Guerrero, and I've done my part. It is time to do yours. Come out and vote.
Now let's get back to the Valenti Polling Center with Aisa Fuentes. Hi, Aisa. Any changes in the polls at this hour?
Hi, Marissa. We're here at the CTC. I'm joined with Dr. Satsas. We're still kind of checking up on the polls and stuff. So Dr. Satsas, what do you think about how journalism and the election, how is it affecting journalism now?
How's the election? Well, it's been a fascinating race, obviously. Mm-hmm. This is one of the craziest elections in American history. But the media's coverage of the election, in my opinion, as a scholar in this field, has been insanely flawed. I think a great example of that, for example, is a lot of people, for example, consume news through like Google Aggregate. Even like your average iPhone, your iOS system has a news stream that comes through, and Donald Trump has dominated this news cycle. He spent a record low amount of money campaigning because of all the free press that the media has provided him. I consider a great correlation here, a great comparison perhaps would be the Iraq War back in 2003. A huge flaw with this country going forward with that war was the fact that the media simply did not do their job in conducting research and gathering the truth as this country engaged in a war that in many ways was not just. And I think in hindsight we can say it was a mistake to go into that. And in this election we saw a Republican candidate who was getting an obscene amount of coverage from the media simply because of sensationalist purposes. And look, the consumers are just as to fault here. CNN, for example, this report came out recently where they made over $100 million in profit because of this campaign, primarily because of the coverage that they gave Trump and because of the amount of people that would watch when Trump was on. And there was a considerable double standard presented between the coverage of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. The news narrative has presented them both almost being equal in terms of dishonesty, when a nonpartisan organization like PolitiFact, for example, and many others have come out and said that on average Donald Trump lies 10 times more than Hillary Clinton. All the facts show that. So yeah, this has been a colossal failure in my humble opinion in terms of the media covering this campaign. And if Donald Trump wins tonight, which me personally, I'm getting more and more nervous about it, especially seeing the Florida results right now, you could blame the media in much the same way that you could blame the media for this country unfortunately going to a war back in 2003 that cost this country over 4,000 lives in U.S. service men and women losing their lives as a result of that. The media has a very huge responsibility in a democratic culture, and they are failing, in my humble opinion, in this regard.
Yes. So as you can see, guys, a lot of concern regarding journalism and the election. Be sure to interact with us with Valenti Poll, hashtag Valenti Poll, and hashtag MyVote2016. So now we're going to head over to Jade, who's talking to some students.
All right, thank you, Aisa. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the hashtags, and we have Tyler here who's going to tell us what's trending, what's going on, what's been said, and what's been done.
Thank you. So there's a lot of anticipation online right now. Everybody seems to really be just glued to their television with us together. The hashtags are pretty funny. There's some like WTF America in 5 words, where people say 5 words about how they feel about what's going on right now. And then debate day songs, where people say like names of songs that express how they feel.
And so what is your actual personal opinion about what's going on with the election today?
Well, personally, I can just say that, last election I voted for Obama, and I felt really good after I cast my vote. And today I'm Not feeling as great, but I'm just hoping for the best.
Now, do you know do you personally who do you personally think that's going to win or has a higher chance?
I think that Hillary Clinton definitely has a higher chance. It's the way it looks right now.
And so are there been going, like, as far as Valenti Voices goes, have people been hashtagging and, like, talking about the election more, like, in detail by any chance?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that just being on like the hashtags and reading my news feed and stuff, I'm like learning a lot more and seeing a lot more people posting things that are more than just what you see by, just looking on TV and stuff right now.
Okay, great. And okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move over here now. I have TJ right here. TJ, what are you looking at right now? What is the polls right here that you've come up with, that you've seen?
Yeah, so one of the really great things the New York Times has basically live vote allocation coming in. Kind of stuck on Florida right now. Obviously, Virginia is leaning a little more toward Hillary, which is good if you're leaning toward Hillary. Florida leaning more towards Trump, which is a little bit of a surprise compared to some of the exit polls I saw. But overall, it's a lot of anticipation and probably a little closer than people would have expected even a few weeks ago.
And what do you expect throughout, like, getting out of this election as far as, like, what's going on? Because obviously there has been, concern about both candidates.
Right. Well, I think the interesting thing long term is just going to be which candidate, whoever triumphs, has to really unite a nation that looks like it's very divided at this moment, and that's something that I think kind of gets overblown on any election day. But it definitely, with the just sort of feeling of malaise, it seems like a lot of people have about both candidates. It'll be interesting to see whoever wins going forward, how that impacts the way they govern.
Thank you. And one more question. And so the polls right now, what you've seen, like what are the actual percentage that you are seeing right now?
Specifically, well, like I said, it looks like Trump's ahead in Florida so far. There's still a few boxes remaining in South Florida, which leans heavily Democrat. But like the New York Times is pretty much calling that mostly for Trump at this point. Obviously, like I said, Hillary took Virginia. Nationally, you're probably going to see a lot more, blue states as you go west, though. So her prospects aren't terrible.
And the biggest question: who are you supporting, or who do you think? Who do you like so far leading towards to right now?
I'm with her.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, TJ. Thank you very much, Tyler. And that is what you have it, the hashtags of the day. Make sure you do Valenti Voices, hashtag Valenti Voices, so we can go ahead and read your tweets. Thank you. And back to you, Alex and Marissa.
Now we turn to the hot topic about how Texas can actually influence this election.
More polls show that it may vote Democratic for the first time in decades. I went out to discover the factors that are turning Texas blue. The most pressing question is it possible for Texas to vote Democrat in this election?
Well, I think that you'll see some places with higher Democratic turnout and that'll lean more towards the Democrats. Harris County is a good example of that. We've seen some of the early returns suggest that early voting is higher for Democrats than it has been in comparable years in the past. So there's a bit of a spike, partly because the Democrats have invested and they've made the best of opportunities to be able to pull Democrats to the polls. So it's a long, slow process, but you do see signs here that there's an increased turnout. That said, turnout is always up for Democrats in presidential election years. So the real question is whether or not the trends will continue in a midterm election year. So they have to ride the wave while they can. If they're going to have success, they need to be able to capitalize on as much as they can. So there are going to be pockets of Democratic support, but statewide is not going to be enough to be able to pull any individual Democrat to victory.
Okay, so what, in your opinion, is it going to take in the coming years, in the coming election cycles, for that to become a possibility?
Yeah. Well, it's going to take replacement for one. You're going to have a sea change in terms of voters. Texas is rapidly becoming much younger and also much more ethnically and racially diverse. And so those voters are going to take over for the aging Anglo population. The other thing is about persuasion. And so replacement alone won't get it done. That's going to take generations. The Democrats don't want to wait that long. So they need to be able to have a persuasive message. The Democrats of the 1950s and 60s had persuasive messages. They had a kind of middle of the road, liberal to moderate message, and they were always good on business issues. The party's gotten away from that, and that has hurt them with some of the core constituents in the state. So if the Democrats are going to be able to compete, they also need to be persuasive. So it's about conversion, it's about replacement, but it's also about persuasion.
Thank you for joining us here at Valenti Voices for Election Night. Remember to keep on using the hashtag on the Twitter polls, Valenti Voices. Follow us on Facebook.
And we will continue to bring you the coverage through the evening until 10 p.m. But for now, here's a look at C-SPAN.
Our website at C-SPAN.
Voter from Pensacola, Republican line. Go ahead, Aunt Margie.
I like the idea of Trump. I like some of his ideas, especially putting our veterans before illegal immigrants. I just think we need to take care of our own before we start taking care of everybody else's. Right or wrong, that's the way I think. I also like Trump's ideas of bringing jobs back into the country, and I also like the idea of a border. To keep drugs out mainly. And I think my forefathers come into this country legally. Why can't everybody else do it on a legal basis? And I've just been on a couple of trips to, I went to England and I went to Germany. I'm sorry, I don't want our country looking like that. We need to we need some control over who comes into this country. And I didn't even like the idea of riding a train there. I don't want to experience that here. But it's probably going to be if Hillary gets in office, because we are going to be having uncontrolled immigrants into our country. It's the way I feel. She's expressed this, and Trump has expressed moderation. In other words, looking at the person coming in, making sure they love our country. I don't think that's on Hillary's agenda. That scares me. Right or wrong, that's the way I feel. Take care of my own first. And then I just wouldn't invite 15, 20 people into my house and then invite another 15 more and invite another 20 more. And then after a while, you can't take care of your own household. That's the way I feel our country is doing. We're not taking care of our vets. I live on Social Security. How long is Social Security going to last? We're just spread too thin. That's why I voted for Trump. He has more of my ideas.
Thank you, Margie, for your call. Joel is up next, living in Chicago, and is an independent there. Who did you vote for today?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I'm an independent, and I hate to say it, but I abstained from voting today after a lot of thought. I have a hard time believing this, but no one seems to be highlighting that both Hillary and Donald are reeling in the election tonight within 3 blocks of one another in New York City. And I look at the election, I think Trump positioned himself as a man of the people, Hillary for the people. But tonight, they're quite literally and figuratively 3 blocks away in the power and the money center of the country. I think they're both very much New York elite. I think they both very much have blurred the lines between politics and their personal wealth. So for all the bloggers and journalists out there, I'm hoping to see a hashtag 3 blocks handle and remind everyone tonight that both candidates are the product of the same culture and cut from the same cloth. Thank you.
Joel, before you go, did you have a candidate earlier in the year?
I did. Hillary Clinton was a candidate earlier in the year. I think Donald Trump does not have the temperament or kind of can see issues with the amount of complexity that a leader would need to see them. But at the end of the day, I had a hard time voting for Hillary as well.
Thank you for calling in. Glad to have you participating in C-SPAN. We'd like to hear from you tonight. Let me give you the phone numbers. It'll probably be a bit of a wait-in queue, but please do that, and we will get your voices in as the night proceeds. Democrats 202-748-8920. Republicans 202-748-8921. Independents, third party, 202-748-8922. You can also tweet us at C-SPAN with the hashtag election night. Steve Scully?
A dozen governor's races that we're also keeping an eye on. Let's go through 4 of them. First, in North Carolina. Of course, a lot of attention on that transgender bathroom issue. And in North Carolina, the Democratic candidate, Roy Cooper, is currently ahead over Republican Governor Pat McCrory. You can see the results with 26% reporting. Roy Cooper at just over 50%. 47.2% for Governor McCrory, who is seeking a second term. In New Hampshire, with Maggie Hassan, who is now running for the Senate seat. She's currently ahead in that race. Colin Van Ostern is right now at 52% of the vote compared to Chris Sununu from the Sununu family. His brother in the Senate, his dad in the governor's seat. In Indiana, Lieutenant Governor Eric Holcomb at 52.3% in that race. John Gregg, the Democratic candidate, at just over 44%. Of course, is the seat where Governor Mike Pence is running with Donald Trump, so it's an open seat. And in Delaware, Congressman John Carney, the Democratic candidate, holding on to a substantial lead over Colin Bonini, the Republican candidate. And in case you're interested on when the last time we've had 2 presidential candidates, both from New York, of course, they're both in New York tonight, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. The last time that happened was back in 1944 with Franklin Roosevelt and Thomas Dewey, both from New York. And going back to 1904, Theodore Roosevelt and Alton Parker, also both presidential candidates from the Empire State. Susan.
Thank you for that note. Steve, before we lose you, we're waiting for the Illinois Senate candidates to come out. And this was also a bit of a historical race in the fact that both of the candidates were candidates with disabilities this year.
And we covered 2 of the debates, one with the Chicago Tribune and a debate that took place between Senator Kirk and Congresswoman Tammy Duckworth. The Democratic Senate Campaign Committee putting an awful lot of effort into this race, Illinois being a blue state, President Obama's home state, and the polls seem to open up for Tammy Duckworth. She has been declared the winner in that Senate race.
And we're told that Senator Kirk will be coming out soon to offer his concession speech, and then we'll be hearing from now Congressman, soon Senator-elect Tammy Duckworth on her bid to succeed him in the United States Senate. Until that happens, let's listen to more of your phone calls. Joan is in East Hanover, New Jersey, a Democrat there. You're on the air. What do you have to say to us tonight, Joan?
Well, I'm sitting here frozen. I am a feminist from the time I was born, and I'm now 85. I've been on every march in Washington for women's choice. I heard Hillary up in Seneca Falls at the sesquicentennial, and I'm just so excited that there's a possibility that I'll have a woman president in my lifetime. I feel that if she wins, she will just run circles around the men. For a woman to have succeeded to the point where she is, with all the misogyny in this country, exemplified mostly by Trump, it's amazing that she's gotten so far. This is a very, very misogynist country. It all stems from the Bible, I'm afraid. Anyway, last night I watched the program about the education of both of the candidates and their whole history. And I was really shocked. I knew that Trump was a misogynist, and I knew he's a demagogue. But I didn't know that he had hired Roy Cohn, Joe McCarthy's lawyer, and the lawyer for the mob, to teach him how to win. That's why he is, I don't know whether he was before or after, but he's definitely a sociopath. He doesn't know right from wrong or truth from fiction. So here I am waiting and hopeful.
So, Joan, are you watching the results by yourself tonight?
Yes. There's no one around at my age.
Oh, well, I'm sure that that you have a few friends and neighbors in the neighborhood who are all watching, and you'll be on the phone once the results are in. But thank you for being part of C-SPAN's conversation, and nice to have you on the air tonight. Next up is Clyde in Eureka, California, a Democrat.
Hello.
Hi, Clyde.
Hey, yeah, hi. Hey, on the Social Security, I figure all they got to do is raise the cap. The cap is what, 180,000 or 160. Raise the cap to 250,000, and that'll take care of any fictitious going out of money. That's not supposed to be part of the government money anyway, isn't it? It's supposed to be a side.
Yeah, they've always called it the lockbox for Social Security contributions. But let me ask you, are you a Hillary Clinton voter?
Yes, I am. This last lady you had on, when she was saying that Trump hired the mob to teach him how to run, they kind of maybe taught him wrong. You don't brag about, hey, I can walk up to any lady and just grab her, and she likes it.
So, Clyde, were you supporting Hillary Clinton from the get-go? Was she your candidate from the beginning of this race?
Yeah, pretty much. We've been Democrats for a long time, but friends of ours say that Trump will turn things around, for the better. It wasn't that long ago that up here, where there's redwood trees and all that, you could walk down the street and get a job. I don't do too much, but I push a broom in a mill, and that was like $13, and that was back in 1990s. Just to push a broom, sawdust. You get paid almost $40 from LP or Simpson, and but those times are gone because the mills are gone.
All right, Clyde, thank you so much for talking to us tonight on C-SPAN's election night coverage. Return to Steve Scully for more results.
And 4 key battleground states, the analytics from both the Clinton and the Trump campaign forcing the candidates to collectively spend more time in Florida and North Carolina than any other state. There's a reason why yesterday both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton returned to Raleigh, North Carolina. Let's look at the results first in Florida, with about 77% of the vote reporting Donald Trump holding on to a very narrow lead at 49.2% compared to 47.6% for Hillary Clinton. And it's been said that if Donald Trump wins Florida, he's in the game. Also in North Carolina, he needs to win that state as well, holding on to a narrow lead. Let's go back, though, to Chicago, where Senator Mark Kirk is conceding the race in the Illinois Senate race.
If you're concerned about Hillary, as I am. But, the question and the
away. I don't want them to see your emails.
Can you just click on the links that I put in there?
We're going to go back to telephone calls, and next up is Jasmine, who is in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Hello.
Hello, Jasmine.
Hi, how are you?
We are doing well. You are a Pennsylvania voter, a Republican voter. Did you vote for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
And why was he your candidate? What do you want to see from Donald Trump if he succeeds as president?
Well, first off, I have to say I would love for him to clean up America, because everyone else has given us false hope and has said that they will do what they're supposed to, and they haven't. And just a word from my mom. Her name is Renee. She's in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. My mom strongly believes that Trump will help us. And she said that Muslim Obama, 1,000 years, I love the ending, that nevermore revelation, don't you? I will be so thankful when you, the Prince of Lies, the great deceiver, is out of the USA. And I believe that Trump will help us, and if he can send all of the immigrants who are not supposed to be here, America would be greater if we would help our people here. Make them countries take care of their own. When our own children here, you watch on TV, they're starving. They have no families. They have no money. What about our people? And I believe that Donald Trump will be there for our people.
Thank you, Jasmine. On Twitter, Ted Cruz, once a rival of Marco Rubio, sends his congratulations to the newly reelected senator via Twitter. You can see that on your screen right now. Next up is Tracy in Mooresville, North Carolina, an independent. Who did you vote for today, Tracy?
My wife and I voted for Hillary Clinton.
And it looks like North Carolina has been quite a contest. What is the mood among the people that you talk to in your home state? What are they thinking about this election?
It's torn here. Today was a very somber and silent day because we're so torn in this state. And at our places of employment, there wasn't much conversation. And we live sort of on the outskirts of Charlotte, and so it's Trump land in our neighborhood. And again, we're independent voters. We listened to the issues, and we looked at character this go around and the issues that they were getting behind. And we made our choice a couple of months ago, actually not fairly recent, but Hillary seemed the one who seems like the candidate that was more experienced, that had more experience in terms of governance. And when it came to voting for someone like a Trump, his character just did not speak to us in terms of his misogyny, his racism, his characterizations of many communities of color that really bothered us. To be able to vote for someone who is so xenophobic towards the other, and is turned towards creating more divisiveness in our country.
Okay, Tracy, thanks so much. We're going to go to Senator Mark Kirk in his Illinois Senate race, and let's listen in to what he has to say to his voters.
Everybody, I have just called Senator-elect Tammy Duckworth to congratulate her on a well-fought race. I told Tammy that I would do everything possible to make sure that Illinois has the strongest possible representation in the United States Senate. I will continue the tradition that I started in 2010. I invited her to join me at the Billy Goat Tavern. And this coming beer summit will show kids across Illinois that opponents can peacefully bury the hatchet after a tough election, and that what unites us as Americans is much stronger than what divides us. Yeah. I ran for Congress to make a difference. After my stroke, I thought for a long time, what is the gift that Illinois has, political gift that Illinois has given to the country? Based on the Lincoln presidency and the 1964 Dirksen vote for the Civil Rights Act, I decided that the unique Illinois gift to the country has been an individual dignity and personal freedom. And that gift from the working public of Illinois, the practical and you have been absolutely excellent. And to my friends and my family and staff, you mean the whole world to me. And let's celebrate living in the best country in the world. Amen. So thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Freshman Senator Mark Kirk in a pretty good mood there tonight, despite his bruising loss in his bid for re-election. You heard him talking about the stroke which he suffered. If you follow politics, you might remember his rather triumphal return to work at the Capitol, greeted by people from both sides of the aisle as he made his way back up the steps of the Capitol and into the Capitol building to return to work. Tonight, a loss for him, but as you can see, he's taking it in good stride, offering his opponent hamburgers at the famous Billy Goat Tavern in Chicago. That's Senator Mark Kirk losing his bid for re-election. Steve, what else do you have for us?
And so, Susan, that is a Democratic pickup for the Senate as Chuck Schumer keeps an eye on trying to recapture the majority. As we said earlier, 24 Republican seats are on the ballot this year and 10 Democratic seats. Let's look at the key battleground states in the presidential race, Susan, beginning with Florida. You can see again just how close this is with 89% of the vote now reporting, and Donald Trump holding on to a narrow lead, just over 4.4 million votes compared to 4.3 million for Hillary Clinton. In North Carolina, the situation in that state where Donald Trump also maintaining a very narrow lead at 49.1% of the vote compared to just over 48% for Hillary Clinton, 36% reporting in North Carolina. Hillary Clinton trying to capture those 4 electoral votes in New Hampshire. She is at 48.4%. That translates to about 56,000 votes compared to just over 54,000 for Donald Trump, 17% reporting in New Hampshire. And finally, in Ohio, where Donald Trump is ahead, 1.3 million votes compared to 1.1 million for Hillary Clinton. And a Democratic pickup in a House race in Florida, Stephanie Murphy. This is in the Orlando area, defeating Congressman John Mica, the Republican candidate. This is with 98% of the vote reporting. And so the Democrats picking up that seat, and they're also picking up that seat in Pinellas County, where Democrat Charlie Crist is the winner. Susan?
Thank you, Steve. We're going to look at the 2 campaign headquarters right now. They're both in Midtown Manhattan. You heard a caller earlier talk about the symbolism for him living in the outside of New York City, that both candidates were from there and chose that city as their places for tonight's events. But there you see a really beautiful setup with the image of the United States as the stage and the Hillary Clinton headquarters in the Jacob Javits Convention Center. That is in Midtown Manhattan. 11th Avenue, 34th Street is where the complex begins. It's very large, going over several blocks. And then just 20 blocks away, the Trump headquarters. It's at the Hilton Hotel in Midtown, and you can see what it looks like there. An obvious red, white, and blue theme for supporters there. We're told this is an invitation-only event for people supporting the candidate, and they are watching the results very carefully as they come in from around the country, as we are, and talking with you about your reaction to them. We'll go back to telephone calls. Next up is Richard, who's in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, an independent. Who did you cast your vote for?
Good evening. How are you?
Good, Richard. Who did you vote for today?
Yes, I voted for Donald Trump.
And why did you make that choice?
Well, I see it as a really clear choice. This, to me, is like a basic battle, basically even between good and evil, or God and Satan, you could even say. I mean, we've never seen such a corrupt woman as Mrs. Clinton, and even for the 20-plus years, and all the and the email scandal and the deceit, and it goes back years and years, and all the pay for play and in the Clinton Foundation, and Mr. Trump basically, advocating for, as an outsider, for, reducing the regulations and cleaning things up. I think it's a really clear comparison.
If Mr. Trump is successful tonight, what do you want to see from him as president?
Well, I think, the things he's been talking about, cleaning up corruption, reducing, he hasn't talked that much about reducing government, but what he has talked about reducing government in the sense of, clearing up all the Obama executive orders, where all these kind of decrees made, and rolling back the excessive regulation. Like, I have a small business, there's so many regulations, and, really making it easier for people to make a living and to live their lives. And also, he's spoken out for religious freedom. So I think those are some very good things.
Thank you for your call. Appreciate your participation. Next up is Mohammed, who is in South Bend, Indiana, a Democrat. First of all, Mohammed, what did you think about Evan Bayh's an unsuccessful bid for the Senate?
I don't know. It's a pretty red state, so what you can expect? I mean, it's not many Democrat here. It's very, very white state.
And why are you a Democrat? What do you want from the party?
I mean, I don't understand. This is very, very simple. All over the world, they don't understand why the hell the Donald Trump, and they are just, I would say, because all the whites, they're thinking at the moment this is the Messiah for them because he's gonna save them, and this is not right. and he's the most, I think, if you see that how many times he lies every 19 seconds, and the people still believing it, like he gonna say everything. He's the most crooked person on the face of earth. He never paid his own employees anything. I mean, what are you expecting? He gonna do anything? Nothing. He's not gonna do anything. He's just by himself. And I don't understand that why they don't understand, and because his color. And the other thing, I don't wanna offend, but the reason America gonna be more browner, more darker, and it's gonna be definitely change the whole scenario. So people have to get up, and the people, mostly the white without degree, because they don't want to get trained, because there is no job coming back to America. If the already manufacturing job is gone, there's not coming back. You have to find other trade.
All right,
That's
Mohammed, thanks. I have to jump in at this point. Chuck Schumer, who will be the leader of the Democrats in the new Senate, is speaking at the Javits Center.
They gave me everything. My father was an exterminator, my mother a housewife. I remember my father pacing the floor at 2 a.m. because he was worried sick about how he was going to pay the bills. But he worked hard, he and my mom, so that my brother, sister, and I could have a better life. Now I know that there are millions of families out there like my own, whether they're from Brooklyn or Buffalo, whether they're Dominican or Puerto Rican, whether they came from Poland, Ireland, or Italy, Senegal or Ethiopia, China or Colombia or India. As New Yorkers, we're proud we come from every corner of the globe. And we all work and live together so well. And every one of these families is trying to do what my parents did, make a better life for their children. That is what motivates me in politics. That is my beacon. I wake up every day thinking about how I can make things just a little bit easier for families like my own, to make it easier for those struggling to make it into the middle class, for those in the middle class to stay there. And I've worked hard to do that as your senator, and I'm proud of the tens of thousands of good-paying jobs we've created because of the work we've done together. I'm proud of the fact that whenever there's trouble in New York, Sandy or 9/11, the storms in Buffalo, the floods in Binghamton, I'm there. So tonight I'm humbled by the trust that my fellow New Yorkers have continued to put in me to do that job, to represent them in the United States Senate. And I promise this, I will work every day to be deserving of your trust. I'll never forget what it means that you gave me the honor of working for you. And you know, tonight there's another thing that could happen. There's a chance that I could become the majority leader of the United States Senate. But I promise you, if I get that honor, I'll be working for New York as hard as ever, because I love New York and it's in my bones. So thank you to the voters of New York. Thank you to my Senate staff and my campaign. I wouldn't be who I am without you and your hard work. And thank you most of all to my family, my wife Iris, my daughters Jessica and Allison. You are my rock and I love you. Now, I'm a lucky man this year. Not only did I win re-election, I got to watch my oldest daughter, Jessica, get married to the man of her dreams, my son-in-law, Michael Shapiro, so it's been a great year. Now, So I have no complaints. But we have a lot of work to do. As the voters of New York have blessed me with the honor of serving 6 more years, I hope.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Valenti Voices Election Day coverage. We're coming to you live from the Jack J. Valenti School of Communications here at the University of Houston campus. I'm Marissa Cummings.
And I'm Alexander Bove. Tonight, we're going to give you a perspective of the 2016 presidential election through the voices of UH college students.
To do this, we need your help too. Tweet us your thoughts on the progress of the election and take part in our online poll on the UH Twitter page. Use the hashtag Valenti Voices so we can see your comments and questions throughout the night.
For now, let's get the latest in the polls.
They're using the
All
same
right, we'll
script.
see you at the Student Center.
Students are keeping a close eye on the polls. So we're here today with
Luke Romanko,
Victor Sandoval,
Dharmik Mehta.
So what do y'all guys think of the polls so far?
They're pretty close, and I mean, there's a lot of surprises. I think that Florida, North Carolina, Nevada, Ohio, Colorado, those are pretty key states right now, and there's a lot of unexpected. There's actually it's been favored towards Hillary in a few of those states, and it's Trump is leading right now in those states, in some of those states.
It's, as he said, it's very I don't know. It's very undecided, unexpected. Actually, I would think that Hillary would be winning more. Unfortunately, it's very close. So.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's a lot of voting still going on. There's a lot of polling still to be made, and anything could happen.
And what do you think of the media coverage throughout this election?
I was actually a little bit surprised when I looked on the map. I saw a lot of red, which I was expecting to be Hillary Clinton blue states. However, I am waiting for Florida right now and Electoral College to come up with the main turn. However, I was expecting a lot more, people to go for Hillary than Trump is. But the popular vote is showing leaning over towards Trump. I'm hoping Electoral College can do something about that. But I am looking forward to election as well.
And what do you guys think of the media influence on this election?
I mean, it's pretty, it's pretty heavy. I mean, I've seen like on YouTube, Hillary Clinton's going to be president, and that's had a lot of influence on how the election is going. And it could still be one way or the other. There's still a lot of voting going on, but I think that a lot of Facebook and a lot of Twitter have a lot of influence on the election. So we'll see how it goes.
It does have a lot of influence, and I think that they should focus on other aspects when it comes to the media.
Yeah, politics and issues.
All right, guys, we're going to keep track of the polls all throughout the night. Be sure to check it with us in later and check out our Twitter with Valentini Voices.
Okay. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
All right, that was a live look at the polls. Now we're going to go to Aisa in the Student Center. Aisa?
Can you just, as I start talking?
Hi guys, so we're here at the CTC and I'm joined with Dr. Kamaj again, and we have some results about the poll. So what do we have, Dr. Kamaj?
Okay, so we had actually a moderate kind of turnout on these polls, and well, as I said earlier, we're trying to get a sense of our students' experiences with the voting today. And as you can see here from some of our turnout, most of our students, about more than 70% of people who respond to our poll, claim to have voted during the early voting process. And it seems overall the students had a very good kind of experience. As you can see here, most of them said it was easy or somewhat easy, the voting process, and there were no lines to very short lines during the voting process. The second part of our poll was interested to see to what degree our students are, how are they feeling about this election. So we are trying to get sort of a sense of their self-efficacy, how much their vote counted. As you can see from our results here, a great number of, or the majority of the students felt that their vote counted to some degree or somewhat, versus about 20%, more than 20% said very little, and the minority said not at all. The next question we are interested in terms of our students' sort of feelings about these elections was in terms of how optimistic do they feel about the direction of the country after this election. Unfortunately, as you can see here, the sentiment was not as positivist, right? Most of the students sent somewhat optimist, but actually more than 50% of the students kind of felt that they're not optimistic at all in terms of the direction of the country. And lastly, we are interested to see to what degree our students think that the next US president, whoever is elected, will be able to unify the country. And most of the students, more than 60% of them, said not likely, right? And about 30% said somewhat likely. So as you can see, there's lots of overall very good experiences with the voting process, but in terms of optimism and feeling towards these elections, I would say that our students seem to be a little bit not as optimistic as we would hope they would be on an election night. So a lot of concern going on, and students are feeling a lot of worry leading up to this year's election. Make sure you're interacting with us using the hashtag Valenti poll and hashtag MyVote2016. So now we're going to head to Jade, where she has some interactions with the... We're actually going back to the studio. Back to you, Marissa and Alex.
Thank you so much, Aisa, for that insight. Again, remember to get on the Twitter and hashtag Valenti Voices.
Also, remember to use the hashtag Valenti polls so you can make sure that your opinion is heard. We'll see you right after this short break.
You just tossed.
Valenti polls isn't a thing.
It's not.
Thank you to my family, my husband Brian, my brother Tom, and my mom, and of course my precious Abigail, who came into our lives just 2 short years ago. And she changed us completely. She's our angel. And of course, thank you, Senator Durbin, for that warm introduction and for so much more. There is simply quite no way that I could stay and be up here tonight without your wisdom and encouragement, and don't have the words to explain simply what you mean to me. You are the most decent public servant I know, and the people of Illinois are lucky to have you. I'm here because of the miracles that occurred 12 years ago this Saturday above and in a dusty field in Iraq. Some I can explain, like the bravery of my crew, and some I can't, like the shrapnel from the explosion passing through my helicopter, spinning rotor blades and didn't destroy it and allowing us to land. I started that day flying high, doing what I loved more than anything in the world. And I ended it knocked down, bleeding, laid low, surviving only because my buddies refused to leave me and wouldn't stop, even as they struggled to carry me, dropping me, falling, getting back up, stumbling forward again, lifting my dead weight, their hearts bursting from the exertion. One of those heroes is in the room right now, Matt Backus. Thank you. I can only be here because of you. every day trying to honor you. 11 days later, I woke up at Walter Reed, so weak I couldn't even move, so weak I couldn't feed or clean up after myself, but I was alive with a debt that I can never repay. And I wake up every morning now trying to be worthy of my crew, trying to be worthy of their struggle, to be worthy of this miraculous second chance. And as we celebrate this amazing and hard-earned victory, let's keep in our sights and our hearts those who aren't celebrating tonight, because they've been knocked down by life's unpredictability. There are steel workers and their families down in Granite City, more than 2,000 of them who got layoff notices the day before last giving and were laid off 2 days after last Christmas. There are people in every city and small town across this state who keep hearing about an economic recovery, but simply haven't felt it in their lives. Let's be clear, the economy didn't fail them all of a sudden in 2008. In too many cases, it's been decades of decline and frustration brought on by unfair trade deals and economic trends that favor the wealthy at the expense of everyone else. There's the brave young woman whose parents brought her to this country in search of opportunity, but who now faces the uncertainty of being undocumented. Not only that, the rhetoric coming out of the political season this year makes her wonder if she's still welcomed in the only country she knows. There's a young man in Chicago who told me he could and would leave his gang life behind if he could find a steady job that paid $350 a week. He wasn't looking for six figures. He was looking for the stability and dignity of a job. Then there's a combat veteran who answered this nation's call, but when he came home after years of war, struggled to find a steady job. He's attended too many funerals of his buddies who struggled to readjust and wonders if his torment will ever go away. There are people living out these stories every day and in every community across Illinois. With the circus that has been the 2016 election coming to an end, these challenges will still remain, but so will the opportunities, and it is up to us to meet them. It starts with a basic understanding that no matter who you voted for today, we are all in this together. President Kennedy told us that our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet, we all breathe the same air, we all cherish our children's futures, and we all are mortal. If the President of the United States can summon that kind of grace and understanding at the height of the Cold War, surely we can find it in ourselves to give our fellow Americans the same benefit. And that's the spirit that I will bring to work in the Senate every single day. While there may be disagreements with my friends on the other side of the aisle, which is healthy, I pledge to start with the presumption that my colleagues, regardless of party, love this country as much as I do, and that all we want is what's best for our children. Moments ago, I spoke with Senator Kirk, and he offered his support as we make this transition. It's been a tough campaign, no question about it. Make no mistake, however, Senator Kirk has served this country for over 2 decades, and we are grateful for his service. He is also an inspiration for people overcoming adversity and living with a disability. Thank you, Senator Kirk. So, where do we go from here? Well, just as I try every day to live up to the sacrifices my buddies made to carry me off that battlefield, I will go to work in the Senate looking to honor the sacrifice and quiet dignity of those Illinoisans who are facing challenges of their own. After all, this nation didn't give up on me when I was at my most vulnerable and needing the most help. I believe in an America that doesn't give up on anyone who hasn't given up on themselves. That's why I will work to make college affordable for every American. Whether it is an honor student searching for the right school but scared of taking on $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 of debt before she's even begun her career, or a worker looking to increase his skills and employability by enrolling in a certificate program at a community college. I will work to make Illinois a leader in renewable energy also. You know, our neighbors in Iowa get more than a third of their energy needs from wind, while we only get 5% here in Illinois. Not only should we be producing more energy from wind and other renewable sources, we should leverage our considerable advantages of skilled workforce, advanced manufacturing sectors, and geography to be a global leader in building the renewable energy infrastructure. And I will work every day to make sure our veterans are getting the best care and receiving the benefits we promised them. They did not hesitate to answer the call when America asked them to serve, and we should not make them wait now. Now, this city's vibrancy was on full display 4 days ago when 5 million Cubs fans, go Cubs! And even a few reluctant Sox and Cardinals fans, maybe in disguise, came out to celebrate. We love this city, and we know how great and beautiful it is. But that doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge its problems. Chief among them are communities and neighborhoods where hope and opportunity are so far removed from that Sunsplash Grant Park scene that they might as well be in a different city. Too many of our neighbors have to travel outside of their neighborhoods for amenities that we take for granted in so many parts of the rest of the city: groceries, clothing, and the basic needs for everyday living. Thousands of hardworking Illinoisans have fled our communities because of a lack of hope, leading to a spiral of neglect that devastates neighborhoods, the tax base, and opportunities for our young people. To address this, we need economic justice. We need jobs, and we need investment in all of our communities. Opportunity shouldn't be something that requires a commute. In the Senate, I will work for increased infrastructure investment, whether it's maintaining roads and bridges, improving and expanding public transportation, or at long last, ensuring that our drinking water is safe by replacing lead pipes throughout all of our communities. That will help to create good jobs and level the playing field. Economic justice also means an educational system that prepares our children for a fast-changing economy, and one that serves adults as well, like those in Granite City whose lives were upended last year. We shouldn't be closing off opportunity to any American, whether they're just starting out or looking to change careers. You know, my daddy, because I called him daddy for my entire life, my daddy was one of those people. He lost his job in his 50s, and our middle-class existence was turned on its head. I am here today because of public schools, food stamps, Pell Grants, and safety nets designed to help people who have been knocked down, and I'm proud of it.
Tammy Duckworth, the Senate-elect in the state of Illinois, the one seat that the U.S. Senate has picked up.
And you're watching C-SPAN's live coverage of Election Night 2016. Thanks for being with us. Steve Scully has been watching the races as the results continue to come in. What else do you have for us, Steve?
And Susan, we want to thank the affiliates. That was WGN in Chicago, and we're partnering with a number of TV stations around the country to give you something that you're not going to get anywhere else, which are their victory and concession speeches. Illinois is a Democratic pickup in that race with Tammy Duckworth. Let's step back and give you a snapshot of where things stand at this hour. First, the overall popular vote. Donald Trump right now with 49.2% of the vote. This is with about 30% nationwide reporting. Hillary Clinton at 46.8%, Gary Johnson at just below 3%, and Jill Stein at 0.7%. And the Electoral College, 270 needed to win. Right now, Donald Trump has 137 Electoral College votes, Hillary Clinton 104. Three races that we're watching very closely to determine where this thing goes tonight. Donald Trump is currently ahead in the state of Florida, 49% compared to 47.8% for Hillary Clinton. Virginia, this could turn out to be a surprise of the night. the home state of the Democratic vice presidential candidate, Senator Tim Kaine. Right now, Donald Trump. You can see how close it is with 90% reporting in the Commonwealth of Virginia at 47.6%. That's 1.5 million votes and a 3.3% difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. In New Hampshire, Donald Trump at 47.7%. Hillary Clinton at 47.1%. This is with 28% reporting in New Hampshire. So 3 key battleground states we're keeping an eye on. Let's look at some of the Senate races as well. First, in Pennsylvania, this could be a Democratic pickup with Katie McGinty, the Democratic candidate, at 57% of the vote compared to 38.7% for Republican Pat Toomey. In New Hampshire, where Senator Kelly Ayotte has now moved ahead with 27% of the vote in, she has 48.1% compared to 47.4% for Governor Maggie Hassan. In Missouri, where Jason Kander is challenging Senator Roy Blunt, only 3% reporting. Jason Kander, the Democratic candidate, at 49% compared to about 47% for Senator Blunt. And finally, in North Carolina, Senator Richard Burr is increasing his lead with well over half of the vote in North Carolina. He has 1.8 million votes compared to 1.6 for Deborah Ross. Colin Campbell is following all of this for the Raleigh News and Observer. He's joining us on the phone from North Carolina. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
This race has been going back and forth. Right now, it appears as if Senator Burr has been holding on to a lead. What do the numbers tell you right now?
Yeah, so as I'm looking at it, it looks like he's currently got about a 6.5 percentage point lead over Deborah Ross. We've got about 3/4 of the precincts statewide are reporting so far. I do think that margin's going to shrink a little bit because we're still waiting on a lot of precincts in the Charlotte area, in the Winston-Salem, Greensboro area, and a few in Durham as well. All those are sort of heavily Democratic areas, so I think things may swing a little bit more in Deborah Ross's favor. Will it be enough to overtake Richard Burr by the end of the night? I don't know. It seems like an uphill battle for her.
A contentious state, to say the least, in North Carolina. So many issues with the transgender issue involving bathrooms and the NBA pulling out of Charlotte. How did all of that play out in both the Senate and the governor's race?
Well, the HB2, I think, was a pretty key aspect of the governor's race. And as I look at those numbers, that race is really deadlocked, really tight, which what that tells you is that there are some voters who are picking Republican Richard Burr for Senate, they're voting for Donald Trump for president, and they're voting against Republican Pat McCrory. So it's pretty clear that HB2 may have hurt him on that score with the economic losses. It doesn't seem to have affected the Senate race quite as much. There have been a wide variety of other issues dominating the ads and the rhetoric in that race, and HB2 really, since it's not a federal issue, hasn't factored into that quite as much as it has in the governor's race.
And Colin Campbell, let's take a look at the presidential race in North Carolina between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. As we look at the results right now, Donald Trump holding on to a lead at about 50% of the vote compared to 47.5% for Hillary Clinton. And no state has been getting so much attention in this race than North Carolina from both the Democrats and Republicans. What's happened? What's changed in terms of the political geography of your state?
Well, North Carolina, I think a lot of it's come from the population influx from other parts of the country. The urban areas in North Carolina have really blossomed over the last few years, in the last decade or so, and that's made this much more of a swing state, whereas, 10 years or so ago, we would have been more solidly a red state. So we had, an Obama victory here in 2008, Romney in 2012, and most of the polls show a pretty tight margin for the presidential race here tonight. So we'll see if Trump holds onto that lead or if some of these urban counties report more if Clinton doesn't make up some of that ground.
Just north of you in Virginia, a very close race between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I know you follow North Carolina, not Virginia politics, but what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, that's I have to say I don't really know what's going on there. All the polling in Virginia seemed to suggest that it was a safer bet for Hillary Clinton than North Carolina, but so far we're looking kind of red on the maps that I'm seeing of Virginia, so we'll see if that situation shifts at all as more of the precincts report up that way.
Colin Campbell, who covers politics for the Raleigh News and Observer, joining us from Raleigh, North Carolina. Thanks very much for being with us.
To reaction to which some key battlegrounds yet to play out. A lot of people on it are wondering how their candidate is going to do. We're going to listen to Chris next in Leon, West Virginia, Republican, and first actually Joshua from Fayette, Alabama, who's a Republican. Joshua, you are on C-SPAN. Welcome.
Hello.
Yes. Turn down your TV volume, please, pretty quickly. And what do you have to say to us?
Well, I'd like to just say that I am a Republican, complete Republican, and I have no understanding for the people of the Democratic side, especially for Hillary, as she has done nothing that I would see throughout her term as Secretary. I mean, anything that she's done, furthermore, her husband has done, and yet you're going to put her back in office? I can't understand this. When we as the American people pick our phones up to dial someone, we have to push 1 for English. We are in America. We should be able to pick our phones up and dial straight.
Thank you for joining us here with Valenti Voices on the Election Day coverage. Remember, if you have any questions or any comments about what's going on in this election as a UH student, do the hashtag Valenti Voices on our Twitter page. Alex, can you tell us about what's happening in the national polls and what's happening at the U of H polling questions?
Absolutely. So Trump is leading the polls at 49.9%. Just barely. Clinton is coming in second at 47.5%, and Gary Johnson is trailing at 2.6%. And I tell you what, if you use the hashtag Valenti polls, you can answer these questions yourself. So the very first question we have is, how easy was the voting process at your voting station? Easy or somewhat challenging? I tell you what, voting at my voting station was an absolute breeze. It didn't take very much time at all.
Same. The next question would be, was there a line at your voting station? No line, short line, or long line? For me, it was definitely a long line.
All right, which one of the following 2016 election races is the most important to you? The presidential race, the U.S. House of Representatives, the state House and the state Senate, or the local judges? I mean, to me, it's a presidential race. It's just so exciting.
Going on to the next one, how much do you think your vote counts in the 2016 election? To a great extent, somewhat, very little, or not at all. To me, I think my vote matters.
How likely are the 2016 election results to be fair? Definitely, very probably, possibly, or probably not.
And then last but not least, which of the candidates is most likely to win the 2016 election?
The big question.
Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump? Definitely. Who knows?
Guess we're going to see.
But now we're going to go to Aisa in our polling center, and she's going to be interviewing the UH Comm professor, Cyrus Satsas.
Hey guys, we're here at the CTC. The Valenti poll is happening right here. I'm joined with Dr. Satsas. And so, Dr. Satsas, what do you think? Anything surprising? Any surprising results that have been coming in?
This whole night is surprising, I think, for a lot of people. I always go to, I feel statisticians are one of the best category of individuals you can go to in terms of polling results and getting an idea for who's going to win an election. And nearly all of them were predicting Hillary coming through. And what we're seeing now is quite the opposite. She's probably going to lose Florida. It's not looking good for her in North Carolina. It's not looking good for her in Ohio. But the ultimate state that can make or break this election is Virginia. If Hillary Clinton loses Virginia, Donald Trump probably wins the presidency. In my opinion, that's a scary thought. Again, I'm very biased in this regards. I've never been a supporter of Donald Trump. But the way it's looking right now, I mean, clearly we're not going to know who's going to win anytime soon. This could go all night. I'm getting flashbacks of 2000. I'm old enough to remember the Bush-Gore election, where it took a month after election night for us to determine who wins because of the Supreme Court battle. But right now, if you're Hillary Clinton, you're very nervous. If you're Donald Trump, I think you're very optimistic.
So what if Donald Trump wins? What can America see?
Well,
what kind of changes can we see?
We can see cutbacks in education. We can see a president who defies 99% of scientists who say that climate change is a real thing that's human caused. So in other words, all efforts that have been put into trying to keep our planet from becoming too warm for habitation out the door. A very pro-business president that's going to put everything else secondary. You're going to see a president that has campaigned hard on eliminating trade. What that's going to mean is for consumers, your prices are going to skyrocket for almost everything you want to buy. And in terms of the press, you have a president who is now not going to respect the very foundation of journalism. I mean, he's repeatedly denounced the freedom the press is entitled to, as written in the U.S. Constitution, the very First Amendment. There's a lot of negative things that could happen with the Donald Trump presidency.
A lot of concern leading up to the election and the results that we're going to have. So be sure to interact with us using the hashtag Valenti Voices and Valenti Poll. Back to you in the studio.
All right, what an insightful interview. Thank you so much. If you want, you can go onto Twitter, use the hashtag Valenti Voices, make sure your voices are heard. And what else can they do?
They can also answer those Valenti poll questions by using the hashtag Valenti Polls. Thank you so much for joining us, and keep up with the election.
I tossed the pen.
Tossing it to you. Next time, can we high five?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.
Oh. Okay, are we good? Can we go? We got more pizza?
Speaker of the House Paul Ryan in his hometown of Janesville, Wisconsin, which he returns to most weekends. And you remember, of course, that he was the vice presidential candidate the last time around and winning re-election to his seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. It is just before 10 o'clock, and a number of states are now closing their polls. Let me tell you about those. They are 4 states, including Iowa, Montana, Nevada, where we're watching the Senate race to succeed in Harry Reid's seat, and Utah. Steve Scully, what do you have for us?
We're not going to say this is going to happen, but just in some historical comparison, the last time you had a candidate who lost the popular vote but won the Electoral College vote, of course, Rutherford B. Hayes back in 1876, Benjamin Harrison in 1888, and more recently, George W. Bush in 2000, losing the popular vote but winning the Electoral College vote. Let's talk about the results tonight and in those battleground states, beginning with Florida. And now, as you can see, with the results of about 94% reporting, Donald Trump holding on to a lead, 49% of the vote, compared to just under 48% for Hillary Clinton. In New Hampshire, 4 electoral votes. Donald Trump was there last night. He has 47.9% of the vote compared to 46.8% for Hillary Clinton, just over 30% reporting from New Hampshire. In Pennsylvania, this is a must-win state for Hillary Clinton. She was there last night in Philadelphia with the president and the first lady and her husband. She has just over 56% of the vote compared to 40.3% for Donald Trump. In Michigan, a state that Donald Trump is hoping to flip, with 18% of the vote now reporting, although a lot of the vote in Detroit not yet coming in. Donald Trump at 50% of the vote compared to just over 44.5% for Hillary Clinton. And in Virginia, this has been going back and forth all night. Look how close it is between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. 47.5%, that's 1.559 votes for Hillary Clinton compared to 1,555,000 for Donald Trump, and still about 8% need to be reported in Virginia. Molly Ball is covering all of this for the Atlantic Magazine and National Journal publications. She is in New York at Trump headquarters on a night that already a couple of surprises. What are you seeing and hearing, Molly?
Well, the mood has definitely taken a happy turn here at the Trump victory, quote-unquote, party. We'll see if it is actually a victory party tonight. You know, a lot of attendees here telling me they came in feeling really nervous, but now they're pretty excited. None of those big swing states have been called yet, but just the fact that he seems to be overperforming a lot of people's expectations. They've got the big screens in the ballroom tuned to Fox News, all the pundits up there saying that things are starting to look a lot better for Trump than a lot of people could have imagined, and that's got a lot of people here feeling very, very excited.
Well, let's talk about Michigan and Virginia. These are 2 states. Donald Trump needed to flip Michigan if he had any chance of increasing his electoral vote. And then in Virginia, the race is surprisingly close. So what do you attribute this to?
Well, from what I can tell, the constant in all these states, Michigan and Virginia alike, seems to be that white voters in rural areas are turning out in droves. They are turning out in numbers they did not turn out for Mitt Romney in. And so you are seeing Trump run up the score in a lot of these rural and exurban and small town types of areas where we always knew his supporters were concentrated, but there really wasn't enough credence given to the idea that a lot of people who were not previously interested in voting in a presidential contest might be galvanized by the Trump candidacy. Meanwhile, you know, Hillary Clinton in some of these places appears to be underperforming either the share of the vote that she needed or the demographics, particularly the minorities and young people that she needs to rebuild that Obama coalition.
So what does this tell you about the polling that we've been seeing in the last couple of days?
Well, polls can never tell who's going to vote, and pollsters come up with all kinds of clever ways to try to predict the future. They ask people if they're going to vote, but they have to somehow compensate for the fact that a lot of people either lie about that or just don't make it to the polls when they wanted to. And so it's always difficult for pollsters to tell what the shape of the final electorate will be. I think that's become more of a problem for pollsters in the modern age because, first of all, they're able to reach fewer and fewer people. But second of all, our electorate has gotten so polarized along demographic lines that, you have races and genders and ages of people voting differently. Who you are seems to really determine how you vote. So it's much more about just figuring out which groups of people are going to vote than it is about figuring out the sentiments of the electorate.
So one more look at the Electoral College total as it stands right now, with Donald Trump holding on to a lead. Here are the numbers: 270 needed. He has 137 electoral votes compared to 104 for Hillary Clinton. Based on your reporting, Molly Ball, what's happening inside the war room of the Clinton and the Trump campaigns right now?
All of my Democratic sources are absolutely panicked, and I have a source in the Trump campaign who earlier this evening was really pessimistic based on the early data that they were seeing, now saying they think for the first time that they can actually win this thing. It's important to caveat that and say that even if Trump overperforms expectations, he still has a very difficult path. Even if he wins Florida, he still has to really run the table of all the other swing states. So it's still hard for him to get there. But just based on what we're seeing so far, there's reason for optimism in the Trump camp.
Molly Ball, who is joining us live from Trump headquarters at the Hilton in Midtown Manhattan. She's covering all of this for the Atlantic Publications and National Journal. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And Susan, back to you.
Thanks, Steve. And since you're talking about the mood inside Trump headquarters, let's take a look at the mood inside Trump headquarters where the public is, where they are going to be holding their event later today. Lots of people there, and the stage set with all sorts of American flags, and people are watching the results carefully. And we also just learned that the Dow Futures has now dropped 500 points as this race right now seems a little more uncertain than the stock market had predicted. So interesting night here on C-SPAN, and we're going to continue watching results and taking your reaction to them. Let's go to a call next. Karen is in Houston, Texas, and a Democrat. Karen, what's on your mind tonight?
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for taking my call. I just want to point out a few things here for New York's Democrat Senator Sherman. He made a lot of good points here. He also, like the average people, work from bottom up and know what it's like to be a normal American. And I voted for Hillary Clinton, not because she's a female. I voted for her years of experience in political office, and because she knows the law. She is an attorney. She knows the law. She just didn't walk on the platform and say, hey, I want to be president. She worked her way up. She knows what it's like to work hard for what she wants. To me, Donald Trump, if you look at his background, he gets loans and files bankruptcy. He never seems to finish anything, a lot of things that he starts. Is this the kind of person we want to run this nation? President is going to take an oath to protect America, to protect the United States, and do for the best interest of the people. I mean, he has been divorced how many times? He can't even commit to his own marriage vows. And you want somebody like this for president? That is just my opinion. I just don't think that he is qualified to be president and make decisions on my behalf.
Thank you, Karen, from Houston, Texas. Next up is a call from Carrie, who's watching us in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. North Carolina turning out to be quite a contest tonight. She's an independent. And how did you vote today?
I did not. I was torn between stuff, but I'm probably going to regret it, but I hope Mr. Trump gets it.
And why did you decide not to vote?
I just didn't. I was torn. Family and friends and stuff. But no, I hope Mr. Trump gets it. And bottom line, I enjoyed the calls from the people from West Virginia, the two gentlemen that called. I agree with that. There's a lot of stuff. I think the illegal aliens need to go out of here. Mr. Trump will make it happen. And they can do process and come back. But Hillary, there's a lot of young voters. She couldn't control her husband. How could she control the country?
Thank you, Carrie. Next up from Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, is a caller by the name of Teresa. Republican, you are on.
Yes, hi. Thanks for taking my call. It's been a while, so I've been wanting to get in here and make my comments, and I voted for Donald Trump. I'm a first-time voter. For the first time, I'm 50 years old, and the years before, I didn't vote because I thought the politicians were all liars. They all say one thing and do another thing, and they never keep to their word. And I feel like now that Donald had stepped up to take this country and hopefully turn it around, and I'm believing that he will do something different than what all the politicians have done in the past. It's just, I'm just tired of hearing all this rhetoric about everything and everybody saying this and that. It's like Hillary has not done anything as they say she did. It's like been in politics for how many years? 30 years? And what? Nothing really to show what she did. To me, she made it worse than better. And with all the scandals and everything between her husband in the past, I just don't believe that she's going to make a difference. And I'm just tired of everything's being pushed under the rug for her to just make her look good. And everything was made wrong for Donald. That was my opinion.
All right. Thank you, Teresa. Thanks from Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. Steve Scully?
Let's look at some of the new numbers in the Pennsylvania Senate race. Again, this is one of those seats the Democrats hoping to pick up. Senator Pat Toomey in a tough challenge against Katie McGinty, the Democratic candidate, and right now with about 38% reporting. The Democratic candidate at 54% of the vote compared to 41% for Senator Toomey. In New Hampshire, where Kelly Ayotte is now increasing her lead over Governor Maggie Hassan. This is one of those seats the Republicans need to keep if they want to hold on to their majority. Senator Ayotte has 146,000 votes compared to 140,000 for Maggie Hassan. Again, 38% reporting from the Granite State. In Missouri, Senator Roy Blunt now increasing his lead over Jason Kander. Early in the evening, Jason Kander was ahead, but some of the results from southern Missouri now coming in. Traditionally a Republican stronghold in that state, and so Senator Blunt at 52.7% compared to 43% for Jason Kander. And in the Indiana Senate race, as we said earlier, Congressman Todd Young, a surprise winner, a strong win over Evan Bayh, who is trying to recapture his old seat. And three presidential battleground states, beginning with New Hampshire, where the results now in that state showing that Donald Trump at 48.2% compared to 46.6%. About 40% of the vote now reported in New Hampshire. In Virginia, this is a state that polls had Hillary Clinton at 5, 6, 7 points ahead. She is holding on to a very narrow lead, 47.7%, with 93% reporting compared to 47.2%. So you can see the actual raw numbers, and just a few thousand votes differentiate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in Virginia. The governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, a strong supporter of Hillary Clinton. And in Michigan, this is a state that if Donald Trump gets to 270, he needs to flip one of these Democratic states. And right now, with about a quarter of the vote reporting, Donald Trump at 49.7% compared to 45.2% for Hillary Clinton. Susan, there's a reason why the president yesterday traveled to Michigan, because the Clinton campaign saw the numbers and concerned over the weekend about what the results might mean. A lot more numbers still to come in, and all of the results we should again point out on our website at cspan.org.
Thanks, Steve. And back to phone calls. Sally, Atlantic Beach, Florida, Democrat. Hi, Sally.
Hi, Susan. Thank you for taking my call. I don't like either candidate, but I did vote for the candidate who I found to be the lesser of the two evils, which was Hillary Clinton. I'm also very enthusiastic about the progressive Democratic platform which the party developed and which I believe in large part we owe to the efforts and ideas espoused by Bernie Sanders. And it's my hope that the obstructionism of Congress ceases and it starts doing its job. I find Trump to be misogynistic, racist, undisciplined, and dangerous. And I hope I don't have to live in Trump land.
Sally, what do you see as the future for Bernie Sanders on Capitol Hill after his bid this year? How do you think he will try to use his influence within his coalition on senators?
Well, I think that's going to be somewhat dependent on how well the Democrats do in the Senate. Obviously, he'll be in a better position if we get a majority, but I think he'll continue to work for all the progressive ideas that he has formulated and that he put forward as a candidate.
Okay, thank you for your call from Atlantic Beach, Florida, and still awaiting Florida's results. We are asking for you to send us a tweet as well. If you do it, please C-SPAN and the hashtag election night, and we'll mix in some tweets. Here's one from Laura, who is a regular C-SPAN participant. She writes to us on Twitter, "Are we really going to wake up to a reality show, America?" Next is Savannah calling us from San Diego, an independent. Savannah, are you there? All right, we're going to have to move on. Apologies. Next up, Tyler in Mount Vernon, Ohio, Republican. You're on the air.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, Tyler. How did you vote today?
I'm a Trump supporter. I'm currently stationed overseas with the United States Navy. I'd just like to express that I feel like we've been lied to time and time again by Hillary, and it's funny how Trump has been around for years and years and years, and all of a sudden he decides to run for president, and we hear that he's a racist and he's a sexist, and he does all these wrong things. But I'm a Trump supporter because I feel like he's going to take this military and he's going to start treating us right in the way we should be, and I think it's going to be good for America, and I hope he pulls it out.
So, Tyler, let me ask you a question. Since you're an active duty military member, he talks a lot about veterans, but what would you expect from him with regard to foreign policy and the use of American troops?
Well, that's a good question because we've had troops in Iraq for, God knows how long. They've been there for a while, and I'm not really sure how he's going to do that. There's a multitude of things that he could do, but the good news is that he's going to have a group of people around him to help make those decisions. I think with that, the Senate and the House around him, that we'll be able to make the right decision.
Okay, thank you for calling in tonight. Next up is Aisha, and in Charlotte, North Carolina, a Democrat. Aisha, we have a bad connection. Let's try and see if we can hear you.
How are you doing today?
We're doing well. What's your comment for us?
My comment is I am a Democrat, and I am voting for Hillary Clinton. I have voted for her. And my comment for her is I believe that she knows exactly what she's doing and that she will be a great president for the United States. And I believe that she can get everything in order. I disagree with Donald Trump because everything that he has said I totally disagree because I feel like if he's president, I feel like he's gonna change everything and make everybody lose what they have accomplished, and I just don't feel like he should be the president. I feel like Hillary should be the president because she has so much on her that she will make the world a better income than it is now. But if Trump become president, then he's going to make everyone lose everything. When I saw that he said he was going to take away Section 8 and everything, my thing is he wants people to look miserable, and he's saying these things because I don't believe he like black people. He's already saying he don't like the black people. He don't want us to live like we're supposed to, but I truly believe that Hillary Clinton can do her thing because I believe that she has everything, and I believe that she will do a very good job being the chair. I believe and I think that Obama has did his good time, and I believe that we just need a good supporter to be the president, and we don't need Donald Trump.
All right, Aisha, thank you. From Charlotte, North Carolina. Back to Steve Scully.
Well, the path to 270 for Donald Trump goes through Florida. The Trump campaign, Kellyanne Conway telling us on C-SPAN a few weeks ago, he had to win Florida if he's going to get to 270 votes, electoral votes. Let's look at the results right now. Donald Trump holding on to a lead with nearly 99% of the vote now reporting Donald Trump at 49% compared to 47.7% for Hillary Clinton. In Indiana, this is an easy win for the Democrats. We thought we'd take it for the Republicans, I should say. We thought we'd take a look at it because Governor Mike Pence, the running mate, and in Indiana, Donald Trump gets 58% of the vote compared to 37.2% for Hillary Clinton. Evan Bayh, by the way, losing in the Indiana Senate race, so that will maintain a Republican hold in Indiana. Iowa, let's look at the national results right now with only 3% reporting. This is a state that Donald Trump was ahead in the polls. Hillary Clinton at 62.3% compared to 32.7%. A lot of the rural vote, though, still to come in from Iowa. In Michigan, a state that Donald Trump again wants to flip with about 27% reporting. Donald Trump at 49.5% compared to just over 45% for Hillary Clinton. In New Hampshire, again, a state that Donald Trump needs to get to 270 electoral votes. Still half the vote needing to come in. Donald Trump at 48.7%. Hillary Clinton at 46.1%. And let's take one more look at Virginia, because this is a state that's been very close, and with 94% reporting, Hillary Clinton increasing her lead very slightly, 1.6 million votes compared to 1.57 million votes for Donald Trump.
Thank you, Steve. And we are awaiting a number of candidates in those key Senate races to make their way to the podium. And we will bring you coverage of their victory or concession speeches as they occur. In the interim, back for more phone calls. Next up is a call from Austin in Richardson, Texas, an independent. Austin, you're on the air.
Hi. I would just like to say that I voted for Gary Johnson because I don't think either of the other two candidates are honestly fit to be president.
And what do you think the future of the Libertarian Party is after this year?
I think they did really well this year in Gary Johnson set up the Libertarian Party for breaking the two-party system in 2020.
All right, thank you for your call from Richardson, Texas. Next up is Matt's in Nashville, Tennessee, and a Republican there. Matt's, go ahead, please.
Hey, how you doing?
Who did you vote for today?
I'm a Trump voter. Believe very much in this immigration thing because I am an immigrant myself. I'm born in Sweden. I moved here 22 years ago. And you see what's going on right now, especially in my area, Tennessee, is you got this, the immigrants come here illegally, they undercut, the prices, the labor prices, so the American workers, it's not going to work out,
Thank you, Matt. Next up, Mary. Mary's in Austin, Texas, a Democrat.
Hi. I'm just calling to say my opinion on some things. We sit back and watched 8 years of the Party of No do nothing. We have a failing infrastructure, and the Party of No never brought it up for a vote. We have many things that need to be done in our country, and the Party of No never brought anything to the floor. So now we had 40 or almost 50 times the Party of No voted against the Affordable Care Act. So they wasted my tax money that we pay them voting no 40 times on the same thing, which means that they didn't really have to do any work. Just stand up there and vote or have somebody vote for them. Then you take a look at what going on with our Social Security, women and children. And any man that's going to stand up in this country and say they're not going to take care, help support women and children and pay for grandma's Social Security so her check keeps coming, I don't think they're much of a man.
Thank you, Mary, from Austin, Texas. Next up, David in Oakton, Virginia, an independent there. David, who did you vote for today?
I voted for Trump, and the reason I voted for him is due to the fact that, you know, our government, it seems to be so corrupt anymore. And, you know, it's just a shame. I'm self-employed. And, you know, I work hard and I try to get ahead. But, you know, when I started my company, I couldn't get no help. I had to borrow from my house to start my business. And then you got all these other immigrants. I have no problem with it if they come here legally. And they can get stuff that I can't get. And I got to worry about my kids, my grandkids. You know, it just don't seem fair. And I work hard, and Donald seems to give me the hope that we need. You know, he's a self-made. I think he can bring us out of the deficit that we're in. He could bring us up out of it. He just seems so much more. Hillary, to me, is just crooked. I mean, she was financially all right, but now she's she's got more money than she knows what to do with. Look at all the money they're spending on these ads. If they took the ads and did less and took that money and give it to the people, the poor, you know, it'd do a lot more.
Thank you, David, from Oakton, Virginia. Steve Scully has more results for us.
Susan, let's take a look at Ohio. That race has been declared for Donald Trump and its electoral votes. He is the winner in Ohio with just over 53% of the vote compared to 42% for Hillary Clinton. Again, the path to 270 includes Ohio. No Republican has won the presidency without winning Ohio. Let's look at some of the House races in New York's 1st congressional district. This is a Republican hold. Representative Lee Zeldin. This is one of those toss-up races. He is the winner over Anna Throne-Holst, the Democratic candidate in New York's 1st congressional district. In Virginia's 10th district, which is one of the suburbs of Washington, D.C., Representative Barbara Comstock is the winner with 54.5% of the vote compared to 45% for Lou Ann Bennett. And in Florida, a couple of races that have been toss-ups back and forth. Brian Mast is the Republican winner in that race. It's an open seat over Democrat Randy Perkins. He getting about 53.7% of the vote. In Florida's 13th congressional district, Congressman Charlie Crist, Congressman-elect, former governor and former Republican Senate candidate turned Democrat. So this is a Democratic flip from a Republican seat in Pinellas County, Florida's 13th congressional district. And finally, we talked about this earlier, in Florida's 7th congressional district, another Democratic pickup, Stephanie Murphy, the Democratic candidate, defeating longtime Republican Congressman John Mica.
Thank you, Steve. And don't forget, you can send us a tweet using the hashtag election night. We have a viewer in Norway who sent us a tweet saying, whichever candidate wins, hopefully the international atrocities fueled by the war industry ends. Best, from Norway. Next is Ivy, who is in St. Charles, Missouri, a Democrat. Ivy, what do you have to say to us tonight?
Oh, God, where do I start? First of all, I just want to thank C-SPAN. I really thoroughly enjoy your coverage. I could comment on some of the previous comments by several people, but I'll just say I agreed with Mary. I can't remember what state she commented on, but all I can say is I know for a fact I went and knocked on doors today on behalf of the Democrats, and I shared several very intense moments with my my buddy who we were going together to knock on doors, and both of us feel very regretful about how President Obama's legacy is going to be like just a fraction of what it could be. The Republican obstructionists just dissolved any kind of progress we could have made. And our only hope is Hillary Clinton, in my opinion, and to believe that this kook on the other side believes that he can, just bomb the hell out of ISIS, and that's going to solve the problems because he's so big and tough and strong. This is somebody who's an extreme narcissist, egomaniac who is extremely dangerous, and I really hope that Hillary Clinton, with all of her years of experience and her husband's years in office, together they can help us through the future, which is going to be a challenge for everyone. But she is really the one to lead. And I thank God for her every day that she decided to go into this race, and God bless her. I hope she wins. And I hope.
Thank you, Ivy. We'll let you go at that point. A tweet from Chris in Bel Air, California, to the citizens of Ohio, writing, "Thank you, Ohio. Trump will make you proud." Next is a call from Marcy. Marcy's in Austin, Texas, an independent.
Yes, hi, how are you?
Doing well, Marcy. What's on your mind tonight?
Okay, well, most people know, like Schumer and everybody else, most people know that, like my great-grandfather and grandma and stuff like that were among those that were helping to build the Twin Towers, for the idea of building it, okay? So that's partly why, some of the extreme, communist veterans and stuff like that, Trump is heeding, okay? Like Betty Self and the Fergusons and the rest, they're sprung from the safaris, okay? And, they're blonde illegal alien felons, they worked for the safaris in Toowoomba and Angola for years and years. So it's like he's real dependent, okay? Because, like when he was 13 and his parents didn't know what to do with him, and it was like a brain injury thing, okay? It's like Dr. Wendell, okay?
Marcy, we're going to jump in. Thanks. Time to go to Steve Scully for more results.
Again, the electoral map 270, the key number to keep in mind. Let's look at where things stand right now between Donald Trump with 140 electoral votes, Hillary Clinton at 109 electoral votes. Let's begin in Arkansas, the adopted home state of Hillary Clinton. She served as First Lady of Arkansas. Donald Trump easily winning that state. And Hillary Clinton's birth state of Illinois. This is a blue state. Senator Kirk losing to Tammy Duckworth, and Hillary Clinton easily winning in Illinois with 57.9% compared to 37% for Donald Trump. It all comes down to some key battleground states. Florida, look at the results. 99% of the vote now reporting, and you can see just about 200,000 votes separate, with Donald Trump holding on to a very narrow lead in Florida. In Michigan, also Donald Trump, who continues to hold on to a lead in Michigan, 50% compared to 45% for Hillary Clinton. This would be a significant pickup if these trends hold. Only 30% though of the vote now reporting from Michigan. In Minnesota, where Governor Mike Pence was yesterday, hoping to flip that state, with 17% of the vote now reporting, though. Hillary Clinton holding on to a lead, 55% compared to 38%. And Senator Burr is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This is a Republican hold in South Carolina. Let's watch.
Wow. Thank you. It goes without saying, this is better than all the rest. And I want to start by saying thank you to my partner, Tom Tillis, or as I call him, Skippy. Tom and Susan Tillis have been available every time we've asked. They've done everything we've asked. They've gone from one end of the state to the other. And I'm grateful for the partnership that we have in the United States Senate, for the work that we do for North Carolina. And I can honestly tell you, there are no two senators from any state that work closer than Tom and I do, and I'm grateful for that, Tom. Tonight, I am truly humbled by the support I've received from people across this state. It's an honor to be granted a third term in the United States Senate. This is a victory for all those who have believed in me and who have continued to have confidence in the fact that my values match your values, and for that I'm grateful. I've got to give a special thanks, first and foremost, to my family. Their support and understanding as to why I put them through this. Campaigns and being away from town so much is unbelievable. I could have never accomplished it, even a fraction of what I've done, without the strength and help that I get every day from my wife, Brooke. It goes without saying that my children have grown up in it. One was 8, one was 9 when I went to Congress for the first time. And for many, the outcome wasn't that good. For me, I'm able to look at 2 adults that have grown up to be great contributors to the communities that they live in. It's not easy putting up with my schedule and the demands on my time, but Brooke does it without complaint. She keeps me grounded in reality. She sends me to Costco or Walmart or somewhere as soon as I get home. And as you've seen on TV, she was my secret weapon in the campaign. I know I'll never be able to thank her enough, but on Sunday with 2 sons, a daughter-in-law, and a granddaughter, Brooke looked over at me Sunday and she said, "Well, I just want you to know, I've been blamed about being in Paris for Christmas, so by golly, you're taking me to Paris for Christmas." It's going to cost me, I think. We don't know what we might face in the nation ahead. But we know this, that for over 240 years, Americans have always risen to the challenges whichever way they came. We'll not retreat in our commitment to the cause of freedom, to be one nation where liberty and justice is available to all. As Americans, we literally breathe the air of freedom every day, unlike so many other nations. Its courses through our veins, and thousands of Americans have shed their blood to guarantee we keep our liberty. Our hearts swell with pride knowing we live in the greatest land ever known to mankind. Campaigns are about differences between the candidates. But now that the election's over, it's time to move forward with solving the very real problems that we face as a nation. Those of us who serve as elected officials must do so in a way that positively affects all of our citizens, for that's our obligation and it's our responsibility. We should be prepared to make tough decisions, as did our nation's founders, and so many who are remembered for the contributions that they've made. We all love America, and I'm proud to serve in some way to make our future better for all that live and to keep America safe from the threats of terrorists and to provide everyone a chance to achieve their heart's desire. Tonight leaves me with some bittersweet feelings, not just because it will be my last election. Yay. I hadn't announced it before, after this campaign, I would have announced it tonight. But because of something more personal. You see, 12 years ago, as we celebrated my first Senate election, I stood on the stage with my father and my mother, who provided incredible encouragement in everything I've ever done. Then 6 years ago, as we celebrated my second election to the United States Senate, only my dad was here to be with me on stage. But I think everybody there knew that my mother was still cheering me on. Tonight, the bittersweet is that neither are with us in person. But I believe they join us in spirit, as they've always enjoyed a great celebration. But life is and always will be a circle. People are born, they live their lives, hopefully making a difference, and then their lives come to an end and they're replaced by a new generation. The sweet part about tonight is that even though my parents are gone, our first grandchild arrived earlier this year, and we celebrate tonight with hope of her future and the future of your grandchildren. That's why I ran again this year, to make sure she and all of your grandchildren have the unlimited opportunities and a safer world in which to live. The wheel of life continues to turn. One generation leaves the stage and another enters. I pledge to you to finish my public service doing all I can to make sure that the next generation feels the full effects of what we can accomplish. In closing, I want to share with you a quote from my father. On April 5th, 1945, I quote, "I was watching a beachhead in the Pacific. The war with Japan was near a great climax. On that afternoon, I was with a group that stared down upon one of those magnificent strands of golden Pacific beach. But instead of bathers to attract the eye, there were dead bodies. And instead of pleasure boats, there were broken and splintered barges. All was quiet except for the surf that washed over the white sand. Each wave moved the bodies in and out, as though trying to say, 'Get up, get up. The battle's over. They've all gone.' But there was only silence. It was the silence of death. Though I knew those bodies washed in upon the shore would never walk again in this life, God was speaking to those who lived." Unquote. Those words were part of a sermon my father delivered on April 5th, 1967, entitled, "Where the Action Is." The point he went on to make is there's always work to be done by living, and it's our responsibility to get in on the action. He taught me to do my part. I intend to carry out my duties through this next Senate term, and as I've tried to do the best of my ability for the past 22 years, I'm also reminded that with this special privilege tonight, that only 2 senators being elected, not appointed, in North Carolina's history will have served longer than I will, and that's Jesse Helms and Sam Ervin. But at the end of this 6 years, it will be time to let another generation get in on the action by serving in the United States Senate. So tonight, to each of you, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this victory, which will be the capstone of my public service. This victory is as much yours as it is mine. Thank each and every one of you for being here. God bless this country. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
North Carolina's Richard Burr celebrating his re-election to the United States Senate and also emotionally explaining that it will be his last bid for elective office. You're watching C-SPAN's live election night coverage, the 2016 election, and we're listening to calls as we're also watching the victory and concession speeches and watching those results in the presidential race as they come in around the country. While Senator Burr was speaking out in Arizona, John McCain took to the podium. And in fact, he's still speaking. We don't want to join that in progress for you. So we're going to wait until he finishes in a few minutes and then turn it right around so you can see it from the beginning. 80-year-old John McCain seeking re-election this year. And you will remember, of course, that he was the Republican nominee for president and returned to the Senate, continues to be very active in legislation and ran a competitive campaign this year in which he succeeded. We'll be watching his remarks in just a few minutes. But let's go to calls. Next up is DeCarlo in Martinsville, Virginia, a Democrat. You are on the air. Welcome.
Yeah, how you doing? I got three things to say. Number one, everybody's bad-mouthing Hillary, but she's the most qualified for the job. Number two, they never said anything negative about Donald Trump. But if you go back and look at his record, he's ran a negative campaign the whole time. And I was very shocked that the people of New Jersey voted for him because look at what he did to Atlantic City. He took the Miss America pageant out. The ratings dropped for that show. He bought it back. How many casinos did he close up because of bankruptcy and left Atlantic City in turmoil? All the money he spent on his campaign, he need to take it and do something to help Atlantic City. That's all I have to say. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Eric, who is in Easton, Maryland, a Republican. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having a nice alternative to the networks that were not quite sure of their integrity any longer with some of the information that seems to be getting around about the news. But I'm actually an independent and have voted this time for Trump basically because of his business background. I think that the fact that he will work on the economy. I think if we have a healthy economy in this country, then it would take care of a lot of the problems that we have here. We can help a lot of people that have issues that need help. If you look at what he spent, for instance, to get to where he is, of which most of it he spent out of his own pocket, versus his opponent Hillary, who once again spent everybody else's money. His idea of draining the swamp and trying to straighten out the way politics are conducted in Washington. I think some of the lifelong politicians are way out of touch with what it's really like, I think that some of the things that he's done in the past, his whole idea of taking on projects, coming in ahead of schedule and under budget, I think that's a great philosophy. He did the skating rink in New York. He had his office in Tower, and he watched New York City flounder on this project, building the skating rink in Central Park for about 5 years, and then he volunteered to just do it for nothing, and he got it done ahead of time and under budget. And I think that's something that we should apply to a lot of programs in the government. I think a lot of the Democrats, although I voted for Democrats, I split ticket myself on a couple of the candidates, but I think a lot of the Democrats oftentimes I like their ideals, but they tend to just want to throw money at problems, and that's the way they're going to solve them. And I think that the way the Republicans sometimes want to take care of actually getting it done is something that something to be looked at as well. So, but anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
And thanks very much for hearing me.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for watching tonight on C-SPAN. Steve Scully has more results for us.
Susan, it is going to be a very long night. Let's look at the results first from North Carolina. Again, one of the key states for the Trump and the Clinton campaigns. And right now, with 87% of the vote now in, Donald Trump at 50.8% of the vote, compared to 46.5% for Hillary Clinton. In New Hampshire, both campaigns putting a lot of effort into this state, and Donald Trump is currently ahead with half the vote now reporting. 48.5%, so about 184,000 votes for Donald Trump compared to 175,000 for Hillary Clinton. She is at 46%. 4 electoral votes. In Virginia, the networks have declared Hillary Clinton the winner in the Commonwealth of Virginia with just over 48% of the vote compared to 46.5% for Donald Trump. Of course, Senator Tim Kaine, the running mate to Hillary Clinton. In Florida, again, a very close race, but throughout the evening, Donald Trump has maintained his lead. 49.2% for Donald Trump, and it's 29 electoral votes in Florida, 47.7% for Hillary Clinton. On to Ohio, where Donald Trump has been.
Thank you for joining us again on Valenti Voices here at the U of H campus on election night. Remember, if you want to get your questions and comments out there and know what the student body is talking about, use the hashtag Valenti Voices on the UH Twitter page. So now we're going to look at some of those polling questions. Would you like to start us off and tell us what results we got from the hashtag Valenti poll?
Absolutely. Very interesting results we got here. The first question, how easy was the voting process at your voting station? And a vast majority of you said that it was very easy.
Going on to the next one, it says, where was there a line at your voting station? And the majority says there was a fairly short line.
Yeah, seems like this whole voting process was easy for everyone, almost.
Yeah, not too shabby.
All right, how much do you think your vote counts in the 2016 election? These results were a bit more muddled, but 40% of you thought that they mattered somewhat.
And then last but not least, how likely are the 2016 election results to be fair? And this one's pretty crazy. Between the 4 answers, it was very varied and pretty close together.
Yeah, no clear winner there.
So now we're going to move on to Jade, and she's going to give us a little more feedback about Twitter.
All right, thank you, Marissa. Hi, we're back, and my name is Jade Ming. So right now, I'm about to head over to Andrew. Andrew, what's going on right now? What are you seeing right now?
So what I'm looking at right now is Michigan. You know, I've got some family in the state, so I've been looking at the polls that they're doing in there, and it's been really surprising, honestly. Michigan's traditionally been a blue state. It's been a blue state for, I'm 22 years old, just about as long as I can remember, and right now Trump's in the lead, and that's really surprising, and it's really unfortunate for Hillary because if she loses Michigan, her path to the presidency gets significantly more difficult.
And so because, Michigan is a blue state, how do you feel, your opinion about this election because your own your own state is, not blue anymore?
Well, it's disappointing for me, looking at the rhetoric that Trump spread over the course of this election. From my personal point of view, I can't understand how someone votes for someone who says stuff like that and who spreads those sort of ideas. So to see people from that area voting for that, it's just disappointing to me.
And thank you so much, Andrew. You heard it right here and then. Make sure you hashtag Valenti Voices. I am Jade Ming, and back to you, Alex and Marissa.
All right. I had the opportunity to talk to our very own Professor Brandon Rottinghouse. He had an incredible amount of insight for me, and he talked to me about the Republican Party moving forward, and in particular, how that's going to impact the southern states. So why don't we see what he had to say about that?
Very interesting, because we've seen, especially in these past few weeks leading up to the election, we've seen a very strong emphasis from the Democrats on voter turnout. What do you think the Republicans should be focusing on in order to hold on to Texas and other southern states.
Yeah. Well, I think that for the Republicans, they need to alter their message. Donald Trump has put them in a direction that is in some ways difficult for them to be able to remedy. We've seen defections in the party all around the state as well as all around the nation. So the Republicans need to figure out kind of what their central message will be. The problem is that if they are too extreme on some of these issues, they're going to lose Latinos, they're going to lose women, and they're going to lose some of the people in the suburbs who are college educated. So if they're losing those votes, then it's going to be difficult for them to find a message that's going to bring them back. So the Republican Party after 2012 nationally had what they called an autopsy, where they tried to figure out what went wrong and how can we fix it. Well, one of the things they did to try to fix it was to try to do more outreach to groups that were traditionally democratically aligned, younger voters, Latino voters, African American voters. That has been difficult to do in an election year that has been so contentious and has been so flamboyant in terms of Donald Trump's rhetoric. So that's going to be difficult for the Republicans to overcome. If they're going to do so, they need to be able to find a new direction and get some leadership in place to talk about these issues in ways that is not so divisive. And that's going to be the real trick.
All right, fantastic. So there you have it. Texas, not likely to vote Democrat, but we are seeing some interesting shifts in the voting populace. Thank you so much for joining me, Brandon.
Sure, my pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, I'm Alexander Bove for University of Houston. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex, so much for sharing that information and sharing that interview with us. Now we're going to be moving to the computer lab to go talk to Aisa, and she's going to be interviewing someone who's voted for the very first time during this election.
You can just sit right here because he's going to go home.
Time voter. What do you have to say about that? How was the experience like?
I have to say I was a little nervous being a first-time voter. I really didn't know what to expect. As far as registration, I did have a little trouble with registration, but after that, it was pretty easy going to my poll early, voting.
Was there any line? Was it quick?
No, there was no line. I will say I was a little nervous when I got there because I wasn't too sure what to expect, because I did have a few coworkers tell me that there was long lines and there was people out there. But as soon as I got there, there was nobody there. The poll workers were very friendly. They helped me out.
Yeah. So I know I'm a first-time voter as well. And I know when they saw my ID, they were like, oh, first-time voter. And they were all like clapping and stuff. Did they do something similar to you?
No, I actually ignored that part because I waited for a little bit before I actually voted. And a high school student walked before me. And they were like, oh, first-time voter. They started clapping. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not saying anything about that. I'm not saying I'm a first-time voter.
Wow, that's crazy. So I hope you guys like us on Facebook at Jack J. Valenti School of Communication. And we're back to you at the studio.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Aisa. Now, this has certainly been a very interesting election, so we're going to take a quick retrospective to show you how each candidate got to where they are today.
Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are relatively neck and neck in the opinion polls on this election day, but before we look forward to the presidential election, let's look back at how they got to this point. Hillary Clinton's got her first taste for politics in 1973, serving as Congressional Legal Counsel. In 1978, she became the First Lady of Arkansas and became the first female chair of the Legal Services Corporation. In 1993, she became the First Lady of the United States when her husband, Bill Clinton, was elected president. During that time, she championed women's rights and children's health and safety. In 2000, she became the first female senator from New York, becoming the only First Lady to ever seek office. She remained in the Senate while she ran for president in 2008, but ultimately lost the primary to Barack Obama. Shortly after the 2008 election, Obama asked her to join his staff as Secretary of State. In 2016, she once again ran in the primaries, where she faced a hard fight against Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. In June 2016, Clinton officially made history, becoming the first woman to lead a main party ticket as a Democratic nominee. It hasn't come without some controversy, as she continues to take hits over her so-called email scandal, when she used a personal email server as Secretary of State. Opponents say she is not trustworthy enough to be president. There have been rumors of Donald Trump putting in his hat in the presidential race for decades, dating all the way back to 1988. But his first entrance into the political arena was in 1999, when he filed to seek the presidential nomination with the Reform Party. Despite being a third party and running against heavy hitters, George W. Bush and Al Gore, Trump still polled at 7%. He became a political force in the 2012 election by perpetuating the 2011 birther conspiracy,
where he accused President Barack Obama of not being a U.S. citizen. In June 2015, Trump officially announced his run for president and quickly became the Republican Party's frontrunner. In May 2016, Trump was declared the party's nominee, but it didn't come without some resistance. Many Republicans were still on the fence about whether or not to endorse him. His crude comments on immigration, women, and Muslims broke the mold on presidential manners, and even still today, on Election Day, there's a strain between Trump and leaders of the Republican Party over whether or not he is fit to be president.
Okay, so now we're just gonna close.
Professor Helmana, who's going to tell us.
I want to thank you for joining us tonight here at Valenti
What's
Voices
going on? That's
this
such a big
historic
question.
election
Well,
night.
right now I
Again,
can only tell
thank
you that
for
it's
voicing
going to be a really long night and just something we haven't expected at all. When we read like the New York Times this morning, they projected like an 82% win of Hillary. Then they lowered it to like 62, and now I think it's a 55% win of Trump that the New York Times projects. So I have a really hard time telling you at what time they, gonna call the election. They haven't called Florida yet. They haven't called Michigan. States that were projected that she might win. So it's gonna be a long night, and it's gonna be really tight. Nothing that we had expected. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for tonight. And back to the studio.
Thank you for joining us tonight at Valenti Voices here at the University of Houston. I'm Marissa Cummings.
And I'm Alexander Beauvais. Thank you. And
Have
good
a
night.
great night.
Oh.
sin and the ultimate treason is to do the wrong thing for the right reason. I'm an independent because I try to be a little bit objective with the way that I vote, but I really care about building an America that cares for itself, builds bridges between different units of society, and spreads prosperity for everybody. But when I look at the surprising lead from Donald Trump,